What's up, my fellow frilly folk? It is I, the Bard in Bows, and first, before we get started, I want to say hello to all my new subscribers, all like 20 of you. Thank you for finding my little channel. I hope that I continue to entertain. Before I get started, I did want to point out that I do actually have a couple of books that are coming out in the next few months. The Unscripted series, Acts 1 and 2, will be released the 30th of this month and next month respectively. I am so happy because after my original publisher closed their doors, I was left without a publishing house for about a year or so, but I recently signed with JMS Books. The Unscripted series specifically is I write queer books, so it's a queer romance novel. It's supposed to be very light and fun. It is about an action star, a television action star, and his #1 fan, and they fall in love, and everything is really sappy and gay. The third book should be coming out, eventually, but I also have a completely different book which will be coming out in February, that I'm so very excited, and I'll get more into it in another video. But that all out of the way, hello and welcome to my very first reaction video. I am a really big fan of Lovely Lor. I think her content is really sweet and a good insulin boost when the world is kind of horrible. And she recently did a video about head bows, making over-the-top sweet headpieces, and she made about 3 of them, and I have actually brought some of my headpieces that I have made myself, just to kind of show that I've been making my own for a few years now. This is also a headpiece that I made myself, and I figured I would react to it because there's a lot here. Before you come at me with torches and pitchforks, I'm not coming after Lor. This is all in good fun. So let's get going.
To be attempting to make 3 different headpieces. This was inspired by an idea of mine that I attempted to do already but was a complete failure. I made a video a few months back trying to recreate one of Cami Pomeranian's headpieces here.
So she basically goes on to explain that she was inspired by all these different artists that have all these wonderful headpieces, and even though she's tried in the past and it didn't quite work out, she really wants to bring the energy of that over-the-top, beautiful, artistic style to put on her head. And I gotta say, some of her references are so cool to look at. I have never heard of this doll Instagram before, but I like dolls. I like repaints of dolls and things like that.
I figured out the layout of where I wanted each of the kumas to go, then cut off the straps and tags. After this, I panicked a little bit because I don't know how to sew, and I didn't know what the best way to do this would be, or if I even could do this. I started to lose confidence, but roughly marked where I wanted them to go and just went for it. At first, I tried to keep them pinned on the headband, but then I decided to take them off and just leave the safety pins in place of where
These are really cute. I love all the pieces that she picked for this head bow. I'm gonna get into what I like about this piece in a second. I really love all the different colors here, and she's working, if you look at the headband itself, she's clearly working with a piece of fabric over a plastic headband, which is ideal for if you want to attach soft things to it. She mentions that she could have basically cut holes into the pieces and slid the head bow in. That would be more ideal if she did not have that fabric that was on the headpiece. But right now, her method definitely looks like it was working for her. So yeah.
Into it and looping the headband through and then sewing it up, but I didn't end up doing that because it just seemed like too much work. Now, I really wanted to do something with a Furby.
I never had a Furby growing up, but I always wanted one because they were definitely all the rage when I was a kid. A few years ago, I worked at a collections and toys and comics store, and we got a Furby in. And I went, I'm gonna make like 10-year-old me so happy, and I bought that Furby, and I have never regretted a $15 purchase more. It didn't really work, so I figured I was gonna have to do some surgery, and then as I was about to take out the old batteries, it started talking, and then it wouldn't shut up.
What have I done?
It was pretty nightmarish. So Furby!
Chips, and I attempted to open it in order to replace them, but I didn't have the right screwdriver. I protected their fluffs of hair with painter's tape.
These are cursed. I can feel them stretching out from the computer screen to grab my soul. Cursed.
I wanted to use spray paint for this originally, but I was only able to get acrylic paint, which is not the best. It will probably end up flaking off later, and I will probably repaint them later on.
So if you don't have a sealant for acrylic paints on a plastic figure, you can always use a light coating of hairspray. I've actually sealed some paintings I've done with hairspray. It's just a nice, cheap, usually very accessible sort of sealant for paint if you don't have a sealant. But for this project in particular, I actually would suggest a layer of Mod Podge over it to help prevent it from peeling. You can also do fabric glue if you have a bunch of fabric glue. I know that her supplies were limited, but yeah, hairspray in a pinch, Mod Podge is ideal in order to keep acrylic paint from flaking from plastic like that.
There also was no white available because it's winter season and I guess everyone is painting snow. I went ahead and tried to coat these Furbies with many layers of paint, but I was really nervous that the colors would not fully show up or cover the original colors.
That's terrifying.
This is a truly cursed site.
Yes.
I know I should have put a horror warning on this video.
Those Furbies have seen some shit.
Kept adding layer after layer of paint onto them and then let them dry overnight. I went through everything I bought to start to plan for my caramel awe style inspired headpiece when I realized all I bought were pom-poms. I wanted to get styrofoam balls and some felting materials and other pieces to include in this, but all I had were pom-poms.
Okay, so here's an interesting situation. She wants to do this big, beautiful, like crazy headpiece, but all she has are pom-poms and some yarn. If you have like a Mod Podge or a liquid glue, I see that she has some like sticky bejeweled stuff back there. You can essentially take a brush or a comb and separate the strings of yarn, and if you have a hair straightener, you can straighten that out, and you can essentially make fluffs of bendable, posable yarn. So what she ends up doing with this piece I actually do really like, but if she wanted to get a little like crazier with it, if she wanted to really like dig in and try and do something different, she could have constructed a shape with the pom-poms and then used fabric tack or Mod Podge with the yarn to make, like, let's say a fluffy bow shape or something like that. There's a few things that you can do when you're in a pinch. Yeah, but I definitely, I know this feeling of like rushing to a craft store to get all these specific things, and I come home and I have nothing that I wanted. So I've definitely been in this situation before.
I came up with a plan to make this sort of pom-pom tiara shape, and I decided to use a glue gun rather than sew these just so it would be faster. I made sure to glue them down from one side so that the glue clumps wouldn't be visible on both sides. I ended up filling in more spaces and covering glue spots with more tiny pom-poms.
Yeah, that's a good
Now,
idea.
back to the Furbies.
No! It honestly looks like if I throw water on it, it's gonna come to life and ruin Christmas.
I decided to give them these gem eyes. That way they could have the same sort of faces even though they were different models. I painted the pupils to match each of them.
The bedazzled eyes is definitely an interesting choice, and I feel like if she had gotten smaller jewels, smaller gems to bedazzle it with, because her references are like kind of a Furby Decora art style. I feel like when you have smaller pieces, you can make more detailed work and things like that. But it's a very cool idea to give them like jewel eyes.
And hot glue gunned them down. I ended up cutting the fabric off of the two smaller headbands and gluing them together because I realized that the weight of the Furby would not be able to be supported by just one of these headbands.
Yeah, so I actually got interested and curious, and I looked up if there were like a smaller, there was a smaller, softer option, because generally speaking, you really don't want to put that much plastic on your head because this is already looking very heavy, and she hasn't even put on the third Furby yet. So there are little, I think they're called like Furby fingerlings, which actually makes me think of the potato. Leave me alone, I'm Irish. I definitely would advise against something so hard, because that McDonald's plastic was meant to be, thrown around by kids. Yeah, so let's continue.
And then I ended up gluing and wrapping yarn in the headband. I don't really want the headband itself to be visible when I wear this. I think I'm just gonna stick it into wigs. But I wanted to kind of cover the rough spots of the headband.
Like, these are the things that if you grew up in the 90s, they were under your bed. They were waiting for you. They were ready. They were ready to suck your soul through a straw. Look at these things. Look at these monsters. These are terrifying. These are terrifying. Why would you want to put this on your head? So let's look at her completed crowns, because I think we've done enough as far as the process, because I do have some thoughts for each one.
Low in frame, but then I have these big headpieces to put on, so
you always want to frame it properly.
I'm honestly so happy with how all of these turned out. I wanted to go for a 2010s live journal crafting era type of feel, and I feel that I really got that with all of these.
Yeah.
First, let's try on the...
I love this piece. I love this piece. I love this piece so much. This is such an adorable... Oh my god, it's so cute, and it looks fairly comfortable because all that stuff is really soft. One of the things that I really, really like about this headpiece is, clearly you have all these different shapes and you have all these different sizes. That cupcake is so big, it's so very big, that it runs the risk of sort of taking over the headpiece, but because it's at an angle, right, and I think what I would have liked is, see the pieces on her right hand side, that pink and purple, what is that exactly? Looks like teacups or something. One of the things about creating something so big and something so over the top like this is, as humans, we want symmetry, but this is balanced in a way that's asymmetrical. Let me explain what I mean by that. So we have this massive cupcake piece that is tilted, it's canted. And because of that, if we put that pink and purple fluff piece under that Rilakuma down on her right hand side, and we put it on top of the two bears over there, we would have more of an equal distribution of weight, despite the fact that we're dealing with something that's inherently asymmetrical. So it would be a really just nail it as far as keeping a balance while also being crazy and over the top and very up and down and asymmetrical and that kind of stuff. And I love the fact that she essentially made all these headpieces, or at least the toy ones, to go with a claw machine dress. Oh my god, that's the cutest idea I've ever seen in my life. I love claw machines. I'm actually really good at them, so long as they're not rigged to like not get you anything. If I end up going to Vegas, because I'm planning on going to Royal Vegas Retreat in 2021, I am going to just run the gambit on all the claw machines in Vegas, because those are the few claw machines in America that are still like you have to be skilled in order to get stuff, and it's not automatically programmed to just like take your money. So game recognizes game. Like, I really appreciate the claw machine motif.
Solid way of putting this together, and I really am happy with it. This pom-pom crown!
It's so cute! Okay, so what this makes me think of is being a kid in the 90s with that Lisa Frank, neon and pastel sort of trapper keeper, aesthetic. Oh my god, I love the blouse with it too. It's such an adorable, like, clowny, and I mean that in a compliment, because she loves clown Lolita stuff. I adore this. It's so simple. It's so simple, but one of the things that I really like about it is that even though it's abstract, right? Because we have all the pom-poms, it reads really well as a tiara. You can see the shape, you can see the tip at the very top. Like, it's a really well constructed, very simple headpiece. The only note that I would give for this, to really bring out the fact that we're working with a tiara, is I saw that she had the bedazzling stuff for the Furbies, but if she got a hold of those, you know, the 1990s, like, sticky charms that you put on your earrings, like stick earrings that are all different kinds of colors, if she got those and she did like jewels in her little pom-pom tiara crown, it would, I think, make it that much cuter, and it would really bring that feeling of, like, you know, being in elementary school and having all the cute gel pens and all the stuffed animals and stuff. This really is so indicative of that feel, that innocent childhood pom-pom, you know.
I'm worried that if I stretch this headband at all, that it's gonna pop these little Furbies off. I glued this down with cement glue as well as hot glue. I used the hot glue to sort of hold them together. It had to set overnight, and I kept it upside down with like weights on either side, so hopefully they will stay in and stay on. The way that the Furbies are anchored onto the headband, it's kind of forced the headband to be in a shape that's a little bit too narrow for my head.
So that is one of the big issues with this kind of hard plastic addition to a headpiece, is that you can't, like, if you look at this headpiece that I'm wearing here, I have harder pieces, but they're not attached to the headband itself. They are hanging off because this is bendable, right? So I have that range of motion that something like this just wouldn't allow. Excuse me. Funny enough, I actually don't think there's enough here. I know that sounds insane because look at it. But the thing that I feel that this piece lacks that her other pieces have is that her other pieces were very much a singular headpiece or a singular sort of look, right? It was, her other pieces were, they looked like a unit, whereas this really more so looks like three Furbies. It looks like three individual things rather than a solitary single headpiece. So what I would do is if she had any scrap fabric or thick ribbon, make a bow, a big bow, like kind of like this, and put it behind the Furbies. You can hot glue it to their backs so that you would actually frame them and make it a little more cohesive and make it more of a single solitary, I'm sorry, I don't mean to keep bumping my audio equipment, but make it much more of a, give it a little more flow, give it a little more of a feeling of this is an intentional single piece. They're just staring into my soul. They want me to grab a kitchen knife and run out and I would definitely recommend some painter's tape as well to try and clean up those edges. I know it's hard dealing with the white nail polish and everything, and you can kind of see where it's already cracking. Let me tell you, that Mod Podge, a layer of Mod Podge on top of your paint, that'll really save you some chips. Also, as far as getting the bases to stick to the headpiece, if you sand their butts, if you sand that hard plastic, it disrupts the grain of the plastic, which allows it to cling to glue better. So yeah, if you just go at it with a piece of sandpaper, really rough it up, and then attach it, you have it's less likely gonna fall off. But I can already tell, like, these things look so heavy, they're going to fall off. So I made this for Disneyland Lolita Day a couple of years ago now, and my favorite style of mini ears are the ones that they're puffy like this, but I wanted to keep their shape, so there is a piece of gray board in the middle, but I ran the risk of them essentially flopping over. So what I did, you can see it here, I took the brown ribbon that I used for the centerpiece here, and I wrapped them around and hot glued it all together so that they have more of a sturdy base, so that they don't flop over, they don't, bend, they don't peel off the glue. Also, the yarn is a really interesting addition to the headband. I prefer using a flat ribbon, which allows it to look a little more intentional than yarn. Although with what she's going for, the yarn actually does work. I prefer flat ribbon. And also, because she's wearing this with her claw machine dress, something I also would have really, really liked to see is if she had some cardboard or like some gray board or construction paper or whatever, and she made a claw machine claw and like put it on one of the Furbies' heads and like had a little like jewelry chain hang down of it, so you really get the idea that these are like claw machine prizes. I think it really would have brought it to like the next level. So yeah, so frame it, add the claw machine, Mod Podge and painter's tape to really get those crisp edges and potentially 3 Hail Marys and an exorcism. Anyway, I hope you really enjoyed this. If you like this style of video and you want to see me do more, if you want to submit stuff to me, you can always do that. Anyway, I think that wraps this up. I had a really fun time. Again, I really, really like Lovely Lor. I love her content, but Furbies freak me out. And keep an eye out for more information on my books. They will be coming out very, very soon. I am so very excited. And yeah, ciao.